The new migration policies for international students here in Australia. So what does it actually mean for those who are already here or the ones who are actually planning on coming to Australia? Hi, my name is Fahad Shamim. I'm one of the educational consultants here in Australia. I have done few master's degrees and few graduate diplomas here in Australia and got roughly around 5 to 6 years of experience consulting both domestic and international students who are already here in Australia or the ones who are planning on coming to Australia. So today I'm going to be covering on what's happening with the new migration policy, what the government is actually willing to do, what their main plan is, what you as an international student should be focusing on. If you are already here, then what would be your line of action? If you are planning on coming to Australia, then what would be your line of action? So first thing first, it's really very clear that the Australian government is actually focusing on quality over quantity. So last year, initially there were rumors that the Australian government is actually going to implement the cap on international students. So they are actually going to restrict the overall number of international students who are planning on coming to Australia, regardless of their country, regardless of their educational background or their profile. However, obviously they were concerned that if that cap system got implemented, then what would be the outcome? The outcome would have been very much like an overall negative impact on the overall education industry in Australia. So rather than implementing the cap, the government decided to actually streamline the overall process by focusing on the quality of students who are planning on coming to Australia or who are actually applying to Australia rather than on the overall quantity. Because back in 2022 or 2023, pretty much anyone and everyone who was applying for studying in Australia, they were being granted visas regardless of their country, regardless of the economic political situation of their home country. Those who were already here in Australia on, let's say, tourist visa, they even were applying for student visa, which they luckily were granted. But to put a stop on that, the focus on quality is now in place. So what does it actually mean? The mean is that there have been some changes that has taken place. First thing first, the government has actually increased the visa fees. So obviously 2 years ago it was roughly around $700, which later on got increased up to $1,600, which now has been increased to $2,000. So obviously when applying for the visa, student would actually be very precautious that they are actually paying a good decent amount only for the visa, and obviously there are chances that it may get refused. Apart from that, the duration which you are actually going to get right after your qualification, after your degree, depending on what you do, if it's like a post-vocational, higher studies or a research base, so it can be somewhere around 18 months to up to 4 years. That depends on the level of qualification that you have done, plus if you have studied somewhere in regional area, and obviously if you have studied regional area, then you get one more extra year as a post-qualification, which is also known as 485 visa. So 485 obviously gives you the opportunity to increase your points by working on your profile, by gathering some work experience, trying to find a decent job in your relevant occupation, and the company might sponsor you as well. The employer might sponsor you at the end of the day, who knows? So that all depends on the overall profile. Apart from that, one major change that we have seen in the last couple of months is that visa hopping is no longer accessible or is no longer practical. Like back in the days, if you were done with one of your master's degree, you apply for your 485 visa, which is about to expire, then you go back on the student visa again. So that's no longer going to be taking place. That has already been put a stop to it. So if you complete your master's degree and then in case if you do want to apply for another visa, then you pretty much have to go back home regardless, depending on whichever country you are from, and then apply for another visa. If granted, then you can come back and study that particular degree. So you have to be very, very cautious. Now, what would be your line of action? What would be your strategy? So first thing first, if you're an international student who is already here in Australia, try building your network. try working on your overall profile, your communication skills. Try to get as much experience, either it be a paid experience or an unpaid experience, while keeping in mind that you have like limited number of hours eligibility to work while you're studying. So try to work on those areas and see if that may lead to a proper full-time job right after your graduation or your qualification. So that's one thing. The second thing is, when you are already here, and if let's say you're doing like a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree, which is roughly for 2 years, bachelor's degree is really for 3 years, rather than dropping down the level of your studies or changing your studies, what you also can do is you can actually do another degree, or you can actually do some other certification like trade qualification. There's no issue in doing that. Let's say, for example, if you are studying and if you have or you can manage more time, then maybe doing some certificate or doing another qualification, like say in carpentry or in cookery or aged care, the ones which are more in demand, the ones which are going to be of your relevant interest. Try to do those concurrent studies, because obviously that will open up another door or pathway for you. Obviously there are financial restraints to it. You will be looking at paying some extra amount for those trade courses, but it's definitely worth it. Third and most important thing is, when you apply for your 485 or when you are on your 485, the one thing and the most important thing that you should be looking at, though a lot of students actually look for working as many hours they can possibly do regardless of the nature of the job and the industry that they end up working in, the important thing is find a job in your relevant field, in your relevant area. Because let's say you do your bachelor's degree or your master's degree, you get a post-study work visa, and let's say you have 2 years. If you can work in those 2 years and get a proper decent experience, or even up to 1 year, you probably have the opportunity or the potential chances to get the skill sponsorship or the sponsorship from your employer. So that's another really very important thing, and who knows, you may also be eligible for a few more extra points. So that's another thing if you're already here. For those who are planning to coming to Australia, again, building on your overall profile would be the first thing I would be doing, by improving your overall communication skills, your networking skills. Do some extra free certificates. I don't want you to go ahead and do like the paid ones. There are heaps and heaps of free certificates which actually you can do, because that's actually going to improve your overall chances for applying for the student visa. And most importantly, plan ahead. How you can actually plan ahead: look for those degrees, those qualifications, or those occupations which are going to be in demand in Australia. There's a way of doing that. There are a few different lists, occupational lists. You can actually have a look on those occupational lists, see if there is any occupation which is going to be in demand and it is aligned with your interest. So find that occupation, then find a degree which leads to that qualification. And the third thing that you would be doing is find a university in a regional area, rather than applying for admission in universities which have campuses in, let's say, Melbourne or Sydney. Find those universities who have campuses in regional areas such as Perth, Darwin, Adelaide, Canberra, or few other regional areas. The reason behind that is obviously that would lead or give you 5 additional points for your PR, which definitely going to be a lot useful and a lot handy when it comes the time for your PR. So that would be my strategy as an international student if I am planning to come into Australia in 2026. Work on my profile, improve my communication skills, get some free certificates, look for the occupation which are going to be in demand, try finding the universities which are in regional areas, and try finding those degrees which are being offered by those universities. So that's the line of action which I would be looking at. In case if you are puzzled, not sure what qualifications you can go for, what are the degrees, how you can actually secure your scholarships, what would be the overall strategy, line of action, and most importantly the first step, this is where educational consultants can come handy, or they can be useful. So Edvise Hub definitely can be, would love to help you out if you need assistance with that. So we not only help for students willing to come to Australia, but we do help students willing to go to UK, Germany, or even USA. So in case if you are stuck and need some help, obviously you can book in your free consultation slot either online or in person, and we can definitely look into your profile and assist you from there.